Hello there, and welcome to the Witches Gathering virtual event interview with the fabulous Christina Quick. How are you, Christina?
Hi, everybody. It's good to be here. I am so excited about the Witches Gathering 2020. I've been looking forward to this for weeks, if not months now. So I've taken a look at the lineup. I've seen all of the special cool events that have been going on. And I can tell you that this is like something that doesn't really exist right now. So you're bringing in something really, really cool into the witchy community.
For sure. That's exactly what I was thinking. Well, when I created it, we were supposed to, go on in person.
Yeah.
Small group, and it didn't happen. And then I was like, I'm going to bring this online. And I see what other people are doing, and really what the other people are doing, they're just bringing speakers on, and they're just hanging out, and, or you can buy whichever, speaker or workshop you want. But this is actually a huge, I shouldn't even call it an event. This is a festival.
It really is. Yeah. And I think you're so smart and so genius how you've done this, because just looking at the event lineup, it's like there's a lot of really cool things, and we're doing it in a really brand new way this year. So it's like you said, it's not just a summit, it's not just an event, it's actually a full-on experience.
It is. From the time you get your VIP loot boxes where you unbox that, you get all of the witchy cool stuff in there, all the goodies, and you get partying, you get raffle tickets, you get music, you get connections, you get it's an event. It's like bringing the magic into your home.
Yeah, it's really funny because I talk to my husband about everything that we do, because he's like my confidant. And I've been walking around saying, I'm getting a box from Susie. I'm getting a box from Susie. Because I know you always put the best stuff in your witchy loot boxes. So I was like, you have sent me like gifts over the years. You sent me like a really pretty, that unicorn pocket necklace, but I've never gotten an actual like full box from you. So I'm like, just so excited to get that box.
Yeah, because all of the, I was excited. Let me see if I can show it to you. I have it over here. But all my books just fell. But
we'll get a sneak peek.
I know. I had so much fun creating the graphics for this box.
Oh, it's beautiful, Susie. That's even more. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah,
that's beautiful.
And it's totally branded.
Oh my gosh, look at you.
I know.
That is so fancy.
I had so much fun creating this, and then you get to open it and it's all branded and stuff. But
oh, nice.
And on, just behind the scenes secrets, all of the vendors are sending me stuff to put in the loot box.
Ooh.
And I'm like, oh my God, I want to keep this. I want to keep this.
I know, right?
Keep it. And I want to keep all this stuff, and I can't. I was like, oh God, I have to put it in the loot box. I have to let go. I have to release.
But that's great too, because it passes through your energy and then it passes through us. And so I think that's just a really cool, nice little touch that you've done this year.
Yeah. And everybody, I'm going to have a team that's coming in. We're going to do a whole packing party. We're going to play witchy music. We're going to anoint the boxes. It's going to be all activated with magical prosperity and abundance and love. So yeah, you're not just getting stuff, you're getting a spell.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I'm super excited about it. So you're probably new to some of the people in the gathering, in my kind of what I call my inner circle. So go ahead and tell us who you are and what you kind of do.
Sure. So I'm Christina Quick. I'm also known as the Tarot Biz Mentor online. I've been going by that handle for many years now. So even if you don't know who I am, you've probably seen some of my content labeled as Tarot Biz Mentor. And so I've been a professional psychic now for almost 10 years full time. I really just wanted to have a career that I could work from home. Because remember, this is all pre-COVID. This is like a decade ago, where this was really, working from home really was a very uncommon thing. And just based off of life circumstances, I found myself in a position where I could, investigate that and see what that had for me. And that was about 10 years ago now. So I started out actually as a tarot reader. And I did that very successfully for a long time, and I really loved it. But then, like most tarot readers, we want more, right?
Yeah.
So then I started getting into life coaching, and I kind of specialized in life purpose coaching. And I did that through tarot, astrology, and numerology. And I would do like this specialized report that I was doing for people. And it was so popular that I ended up starting to coach people on how to actually start a tarot reading business, because a lot of people of my clients, they're coming for life purpose. And I would see that so many of my clients had spiritual gifts. And so I would start pushing them, hey, have you considered reading tarot cards for others? Have you considered doing this? And so I would say it's been about 5 years now that I have kind of switched from life coaching over to business coaching. And now I'm a consultant. Still a psychic. I'm still a professional psychic, but now I'm a consultant as well. And I coach people with psychic service-based businesses. So like tarot readers, astrologers, anybody that does like any type of psychic or spiritual service. And I help them build their businesses up. And I have a pretty diverse clientele these days. I help a lot of different people, but I would say the people that I work with the most confidently or have the most experience helping people is in marketing. And specifically, I focus on content marketing for professional psychics.
Yeah. Because I've worked with you for many years.
Yeah, that's funny. We were just having that conversation last Friday, right? Because I was talking about how I was in this one program, and I was teaching a masterclass on events. And so we were talking, and I'm like, Susie, we've been together since like 2014, 2015. I'm like, wow, it doesn't feel like it's been that long, but really, I mean, it really has been that long. We weren't like working together professionally for some of that time, but we have been around each other and been a support system for one another. So I think that that's really, really cool and special. And that's something that's really unique about us.
Yeah. And Christina is my witchy business BFF.
Yeah.
We always throw ideas off each other. And Christina is the one who helped me to get out of corporate America, and actually I had a 2-year plan. This is my 2-year plan. So with Christina's coaching and helping and programs and master classes, I had a plan for 2 years and how I was going to get out of that. So extremely knowledgeable and extremely like strategic. And me being a Taurus, I need that step-by-step stuff. Today you do this.
And we both have Virgo moons. So we get along great. We're very like, we need this organized in this specific way. And this is how we do things. So yeah, we definitely have that personality thing together.
Because I get lost.
Yeah.
If I'm not on track, I get lost.
Well, it's just a lot to deal with. And so that's why working with someone like me or Susie is so beneficial, because we have the experience and we can, it's one thing to know things on an intellectual level, and it's another thing to have experience in those things, but it's a whole nother level of working with a coach like me or Susie who can actually take all of the information and divine in that information and find your best, most suitable path for you, which is really invaluable because it saves you so much time, right? Because I'm sure your students who you coach on magic and witchcraft and even starting magical based businesses, I'm sure that you see their potentials like I do. You can like laser focus on that. You can see, okay, this is where that person's going. And so then you can kind of help them along that path. And so I'm sure that you've seen with working with your own clients as a witchy mentor too, is that how quickly people can actually shift and overcome things when they start working with people like us.
Right. Exactly. And one thing that, and I've noticed, and I've, promised myself that I will not, and this is kind of a blanket statement for business people, I will not work with a mentor or a business person unless they know the magical, metaphysical, witchy, woo stuff behind it. Because
absolutely, they have to know the energy.
They have to know the energy. I've had some coaches where they're just like, do this, push, call, get on, do all this, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, this is energetically not right.
It doesn't feel good.
No.
Yeah.
And so Christina knows the background of what it's like to work in a metaphysical field, as long as the clients So that's why working with you with my business has been so successful.
Yeah. And it's just amazing because I've seen how fast you've come in such a short amount of time. And I know that you are grateful for working with me too, but you have such a predisposition to magic. You have such a wonderful background in magic that, for you is as simple as just learning the strategies and then you can apply that, but you have your own special magic too. So I just want you to know that.
Oh, thank you. But you were in the corporate world also.
Yeah, and a very, very different thing. So I really got into this work because as witches, I've been a magical person since birth. Whether I knew that I was magical or not, or had a label to kind of put on that, I've always been magical. So like a funny story is every year for Halloween, the first year for Halloween that I get to choose my own costume, I was like maybe like 4 years old. Yeah. And my mom says, "What do you want to be?" And I said, "I want to be a princess." So I said, "Okay." And my mom said, "Fine, we'll be a princess." And as I was out trick-or-treating, I saw all these little girls dressed as witches. And so from there on forward, I was a witch every year because I realized that being a witch was possible. You could be a witch, right? Because I think every little girl wants to be a princess until they realize that they can actually be the powerful witch, right? And
save themselves, right?
Yeah. And so I really stepped into, that role. Like my mom would kind of dabbled in it. And so I would go like every kid and go into my parents' room and go trifle through her belongings and her jewelry boxes and stuff. And I remember she had in her jewelry boxes, I would find these pendulums and I would use these pendulums. And I remember one day she caught me in there and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I was just showing her I was playing with the pendulum too, this beautiful emerald green one that I was just like obsessed with. I was maybe like 6 years old. And she's like, "Do you know what that is?" And I said, "No." And so she, she sat me down and she said, "This is how you can tell if a woman's going to have a pregnant woman's going to have a boy or a girl," or, giving me real life examples of how you can use a pendulum. And then from there, we kind of just really started bonding over that magical thing. And it became a thing where like every Christmas we would do like Ouija boards, or I would get like new tarot card deck or something like that. So my mom really, really encouraged it. So I feel very blessed and lucky in that way. And so it was weird for me to then start working in corporate America where other people didn't feel the same as me. And it was really, really discouraging because I'm a spiritual person by nature. I'm not a religious person, but I'm a spiritual person. And I think that like attracts like. That's the law of attraction. And so every time I'd go for a business interview or something like that, I would get hired always and be automatically put into some type of managerial position. But I would also find that the people that would hire me were very ultra spiritual religious as well. Only they would be on the opposite side of that. They would be on the very strict extremist kind of worldviews on like the Abrahamic religions, and most of them would be Christian or Catholic. And we would get together we'd get along really great until it became time where they would start enforcing like prayer at work or trying to pray before things. And like I just felt really weirded out, and I felt in a lot of ways like they were trying to include me, but in my heart I really felt excluded, right? Yeah. I really felt like I was not seen, or I felt like it would be jeopardizing to my career to be honest about who I was. And that's never fun, to have to hide anything about your personality or who you are. I remember like one time I was working in a barbershop, and I was working for a man that was a really, really nice man, but he was a Baptist pastor, right? Baptist pastor or evangelist pastor. I can't remember. Preacher. And I remember we would have these wonderful, long, long discussions about God and the universe and spiritual subjects. But and I thought he was cool. But then one day I brought my tarot cards to work, and he kind of flipped out, and it brought out like all that shame kind of back, to me. And so I knew that I had to get out inevitably. Not only was I just killing myself at work, but, working for someone else, working 9 to 5, working days I didn't want to work, always being on call, always making someone else rich,
Right.
And I just, like I said, circumstances kind of landed in my lap where I was able to make a change. And so I've always been magical, but at the same time, like, I really wanted to live a lifestyle where I could be in my magic all the time, because I didn't want my magic to be like something that I go to escape from the real world
Yeah.
into.
Yeah.
I really wanted it to be a part of my life, because I mean, I'm sure I'm on like the beginning end of the millennial witches, you know, and we all kind of started with The Craft, that movie that came out, right? And it was really exciting because The Craft was like that first real depiction of witches that was like an alternative view of witches, rather than you know, the more fluffy kind of fairy kind of, or the evil witch. And either witches were kind of portrayed as these evil characters or these benevolent, harmless creatures, right?
Yeah.
And so The Craft was really that first introduction I had. I was like maybe 11 years old to what I would consider like real witchcraft, you know. And what it meant to actually be a witch and also be a teenager at the same time. And it really just spoke to my heart. And then I think, I can't remember if the chicken or the egg came first, but then Silver Ravenwolf ended up coming out with Teen Witch. Remember that Teen Witch kit that she came out with? And it came up, the Teen Witch book, and I have it back over there. It's just completely destroyed. There's pages falling out. I read that thing front to cover a million times.
Yeah, she's super popular.
Yeah, and so and it came with a little kit, like a little pentacle, and it came with a little letter to parents, you know, explaining witchcraft and Wicca and stuff. So yeah, that was my first real kind of introduction to real magic. I would say is probably through The Craft or coming through Silver Ravenwolf, the Teen Witch, and that was really more like the path into Wicca, which is not necessarily witchcraft, but yeah, that was my first kind of introduction to it.
Correct. It's interesting how when you reflect back, and this is probably a lot of people who are listening to the interview or watching it, when you reflect back on your childhood, how you can actually pinpoint the little bitty things that were always magical, and you didn't know it was magical until you think about it, and you're like, oh yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I remember me and my cousins getting dressed up and putting cloaks on. And I remember those big old plastic buckets that you could store toys in. I remember us dumping those out and adding ones in and stirring it with a broom. And it was like a magic potion, or, you know, making mud potions in the backyard. I mean, and magic is just inherently in children. I think it's just inherently in us. And it's kind of sad how we kind of grow out of it or kind of dissuaded against it.
Yeah. I think when you become an adult, all of that magic kind of goes away, you know, or gets, you know, oppressed. And then you have to work on, you know, believing in fairies or believing in magic again, because, you know, when you're in a muggle life, in a muggle world, you don't have time for that.
Absolutely. And you know, that keeps you really numb to the magic that does exist. I agree with that 100%.
Exactly. So what is your favorite kind of magic? Because I know that you transitioned a little bit.
Yeah, so I've actually been a witch for, I think we just discovered I've been a witch for like 20 something years now, like 21 years or something like that, 22 years. Since I was 11 years old, I'm 33 now. But seriously practicing that, like seriously, like taking it seriously, not just a novelty thing. Like, okay, this is my new religion, I'm cool and everything like that. But actually, you know, buying real books on witchcraft and learning the history of witchcraft and different traditions. I would say I've probably been a real witch for probably 12 years now, probably since I was like 20, in my early 20s. And so like I said, I started out with Silver Ravenwolf, and so I got that little kit. And so my first introduction to witchcraft was kind of Wicca. I actually went ahead and got some Wiccan degrees. I got up to my second degree, which I think is a high priestess, right? Which means I can basically lead ritual. I can't lead a coven, but I can lead ritual. And so I studied with the High Corellian nativist tradition. That's who I went with first, did my first and second degrees through them. Also, at some point in time, did the first degree through the Aquarian Tabernacle Church. And so I actually went full in. I was full in for a little while. I was like living the lifestyle, like doing the rituals and volunteering. I would volunteer like several hours a week to the church and things like that. And, you know, it was really interesting because it taught me a lot about energy at the time, taught me a lot about like metaphysics, which is I'm so incredibly grateful to Wicca for teaching me like the background information on energy, like New Age and like metaphysics. But what I found was that it wasn't really like the type of magic that I really wanted to perform for myself. And so, or, hold in ritual for myself. So that's when I began to kind of explore alternative witchcraft. And I found some of the more, I guess you could call them like the salt of the earth, types of crafts, like the old crafts before the whole Dianic movement and the Lord and the Lady, which is basically, in my opinion, and I don't mean to offend anybody, but it's kind of like, I kind of see Wicca as a watered down Catholicism, stripped of the Holy Trinity, and it's replaced with more magical kind of ideals, but it's the same thing, This is kind of the same thing. And so I wouldn't necessarily put a label on the magic that I practice now. If I had to say anything, it's extremely eclectic. I would say I practice primarily candle and root and herbal magic. I also spent a great deal of time in the Western mysticism traditions, like studying Kabbalah, the various aspects of that, various aspects of biblical magic, biblically based magic, like hoodoo, conjure, other types of like Powwow, which is going to be what I'm going to be talking about during the summit. But I wouldn't necessarily identify as a Christian either. I'm actually really what I would call like an equal opportunity witch, right? I'm a kind of a dash of this, a pinch of that, but ultimately I would say intuitive magic is where I feel the most comfortable and at home and confident in my spell work. And that's what I mean by that is just, okay, what looking at my shelves of herbs and looking at my shelves of candles and oils and ingredients and thinking to myself, okay, I'm going to build this spell intuitively and I'm just going to go where I'm guided. I found that, when I kind of, you learn the basics. The basics is good. You need to understand the rules before you can break them. Right?
Yep.
But, you get to a point in your magical craft where you kind of just have to trust where you're being led intuitively. And so my best, most powerful spells, in my opinion, are the ones where I just kind of grab things and put it together. And I think it's that confidence that's really driving the spell more so than like the, collection of ingredients or anything like that. So intuitive magic, I would say.
Yeah, because I started off Wiccan also, and then it was too strict for me and too many rules, and I was interested in so many other different paths, and I wanted to bring that into my magic too. So I'm with you. I'm more intuitive, more collective, more eclectic, more just whatever I feel like I want to do, I just do what feels right to me. Instead of like, no, you have to cast a circle, or you have to work with this deity, you have to bring.
Yeah, I don't have time for that anymore.
I don't either.
I don't.
No.
Yeah.
I like to just pull in whatever I want to or whatever I feel like doing, and it's really powerful. But I agree with you. You have to have the fundamentals down to know, what the energy usually is or what that herb typically represents or what it's for. So that you have the confidence to do your magic outside of the box or outside of the book is what I call it, right?
That's great. That's a great term. That's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. And once you get the basics down and you build that confidence, you can really manifest and work magic any way you want to. That's what I said. There is no rules on magic. Magic is magic. There's no dark magic. There's no light magic. There's really no gray magic. Magic is just magic. It's just the energy and the intent that you put out there, because you could work with love and lavender all you want, but if your intention is you want to hex this person for love and hope that, his penis falls off or whatever.
Right, exactly.
You're going to manifest that even though love is lavender traditionally is.
Yeah, and so it's interesting that you bring that up because I think a lot of the fear of witchcraft is going to those darker places. And let me tell you something, going those darker routes can sometimes be so extremely therapeutic and healing and life affirming that whenever I go to the darkness, I always am brought back to the light because I have to clear out that darkness first.
Yeah.
And so that's exactly it. It's more about your intention. And I'll be honest with you, some of my best, most powerful spells are like the simplest things where it's like, like I call it, it's like kind of kitchen witchery where you just kind of toss things together and it doesn't have to be grand. It doesn't have to be like some big display or anything like that. It's just because you know you have that rock solid confidence. You know, okay, I can literally light a white candle and I can manifest anything. I don't need all of these expensive ingredients and all this other stuff because it's really just the affirmation that is going to happen, right?
And you know, it's because you say it is.
Mm-hmm.
You say to the universe, I'm manifesting this with this candle or whatever it is because I like the candle no matter what candle color it is or whatever.
Yeah, let's be real for a minute. You don't even need anything. You don't need anything. You can literally just do magic in your mind, right? And I think most people actually do magic in their mind. They just don't know that they do it.
Right. Thoughts and intentions are super powerful.
Yeah.
So speaking of thoughts and intentions, let's talk a little bit about, well, my hair's all janky. I'm waiting for it to grow out so I can like.
You wouldn't be a proper witch if you didn't have a little bit of a weird hair thing going on.
Wonky haircut, I know.
Yes, yes.
So let's talk a little bit about the workshop that you're going to be talking about because a lot of people are just, this is new to what you're talking about. It's not.
Yeah, this is super exciting because, okay, so let me give you a little bit of a backstory really quickly. So about 2 years ago, I did a 23andMe test and I was like, because I was kind of lost in the sea of witchcraft and spirituality. I was like, nothing really calls to me. Like this calls to me a little bit, this calls to me a little bit. I really wanted to start with my heritage. I wanted to find out what is in my blood because blood magic is super, super powerful. Okay. So let's just start with blood. See what's in here. And I had some ideas, but I was really surprised to find out that I'm a lot German. I knew I was a little bit German. I thought I was mostly French, but it turns out I'm more German than I am French, because I have my aunts practice a little bit of conjure and not hoodoo, but I would consider like not necessarily Appalachian folk magic, but it's really like a New Orleans French style kind of conjure hoodoo. And so I kind of had that window into that with them. And then my grandmother is actually a Pennsylvania Dutch descendant. So she's from the Schaefers, if you want to know specifically. So she's German and they're from Pennsylvania. My family, my grandfather actually moved our family from Pennsylvania to Arizona because my grandfather had gotten a job. Otherwise, I would have been born in Pennsylvania, right? So my grandmother's Pennsylvania Dutch. She's German, and you know she's German enough to the point where I grew up eating sauerkraut. It was like one of the very first things I ever ate, and so my grandmother was very quirky in that she always had these weird things that she would do. Like for example, she would always have in every single doorway a horseshoe right side up to catch blessings, and you know just random like things like that you don't think much of as a child, but looking back on it, I'm like, oh yeah, that was some type of folk magic. And so I've been doing this kind of tour of my heritage, and I'm at the point now where I'm really studying a lot on Pennsylvania powwow. And so I thought, you know what, I want to teach a class on this, but I want to do it in something different than what's going on, because a lot of the powwow classes out there are kind of like they just kind of talk about like who the people are, and some of the folk magic remedies that they kind of do, like anything from like curing a toothache or curing a headache or blessing a pregnant woman, or even going so far as to removing negative spirits and things like that. But a lot of people don't. I found this really interesting in all of my studies. I've never really found someone that really went very, very deep into the right hand aspect of it and the left hand aspect of that particular tradition. So there was a lack of resources. So you're like, you know what, I'm going to teach about this because this is super, super, super interesting. And then we were talking earlier just now about, the dark and the light. And so if you don't know what that is, so what would you consider the left and the right hand path, Susie? How would you classify that?
Right. Well, it's more, for me, left is like darker, but darker as far as that's going to be looking at your shadow side, your devious side, your more self-gratification side. And your light is all about healing. It's all about, well, although dark can be healing too, but it's about living like high vibe and working in the light as far as love and light and great emotions and perfect emotions and doing
Positivity.
positive, stuff. Whereas, and I don't think dark magic is negative also, but I think it's more of like self-empowerment, really deep down self-empowerment and not following a path.
Right. And so it's really interesting because when you look at folk magic, because it's in particular the Pennsylvania Dutch folk magic, it's really interesting because it is a very, very enclosed system where it hasn't really been tainted, I would say, by like New Age philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more based on biblical magic and biblical structures and systems for understanding the worldview. And so I thought it was really interesting as I was reading this. We have the right hand path and we have the left hand path. Now you're not going to see this anywhere. This is something that I've like intuited from this tradition. So that's not something you're going to read about. It's not you can't type into Google the left hand path of Powwow. You're probably not going to find anything. But in my research, I was finding that there are there's really three distinct ways to work within Powwow. It's kind of made up of three different pillars of the tradition. The first one is the right hand path, which is like healing, which is the Brockers. They are basically what that means is to try. That word means to try. Mm-hmm. So the Brockers actually don't take any responsibility for the healing. They become actually mediumship. It's like mediumship when you're in a trance. You're actually channeling the will of God to heal people. Yeah. So that's the right hand path of it. Then we also have what's interesting is the left-hand path of it, which really comes in with the two-headed doctors, right? The people that they called the hexeries that actually would work with exorcism and negative spirits and even demons, which I thought was really interesting because that's not talked a lot about either. But if you get this book, I'm going to talk about all of these books that I've getting all of this information from, all of these awesome resources. I'm going to have like a full list of all these books. But I thought it was really interesting because the Powwows, they work really, really closely with the 6th and 7th books of Moses. Okay, so that's not really something that a lot of people have experience or knowledge of. And basically what this book is, it shows like different seals of the different miracles of Moses and some other things too. And what's really interesting is I found in here, there's actually a seal on how to command demons. So when I found that, I was like, oh my gosh, there definitely is a left-hand path of this where it could be about removing curses, removing hexes, but also placing them and even conjuring demons to do your bidding, not just working through Jesus Christ and God, but also conjuring demons. So that was just absolutely fascinating to me. And so that's what I'm going to be really talking about during the workshop is I'm going to talk a little bit about the people themselves, but I really want to kind of share. Oh, and then the third aspect of it is through folk magic, like sympathetic magic, using herbs and roots and things like that to do things, right? The faith healing part. But also like folk medicine, herbal medicine. And so that was really fascinating to me. So I'm super, super excited to do this workshop because I just had no idea that that was even a thing. I mean, you think powwow, you think biblical magic, you don't think that it really goes there. But I really wanted to spend some time in this upcoming workshop for the Witches Gathering and talk about those different aspects, those kind of hidden secret aspects to powwow that a lot of people don't know or realize.
It reminds me, though, that you just, brought that up. It kind of reminds me of the whole magic and the mysticism behind King Solomon.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And there's a lot of different offshoots from that as well. Yeah.
That's very interesting. I'm super excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
I just, you don't find this kind of stuff. And this is the reason why we have the Witches Gathering, is to bring new paths and introduce new magic to people who are maybe new to the path or people who are just kind of like stuck in their magic and they're like, I'm done with Wicca. What else is out there?
What else is out there? And I'm also going to be giving away, I'm going to do a flash giveaway. This is the Hex and Spell work of Kyle Hare. And this is an amazing book. And actually after my workshop, we're going to do a bonus little presentation. I'm going to be talking about some of the hex signs. Those beautiful, beautiful sigils that are on barns and things like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to be talking, and you and I were just talking about veves, and it's really, really interesting how these are very similar to veves. They're almost kind of like seals or sigils in a way, that you can put these on different parts of your home, and you can use them to call in different things. Like there's one that has like two birds, and it's for love and harmony, right? There's some other ones that have different symbols to bring in different things. And what's really interesting too is that every little individual like township in the Pennsylvania Dutch would have like a signature artist that would specialize in this. They'd be like the hex sign,
Oh,
artist.
yeah, yeah.
And so that would be their profession. And each township would have like a specific style of doing their own hex signs. And so you could drive by a barn and you could know, oh, okay, that's this community. Oh, okay, that's this community. Because they would use certain colors and different decorative elements and things like that. I'm getting ahead of myself. But yeah, so it's absolutely fascinating. I mean, there's so much to talk about when it comes to Powwow.
We need to do a magical tour through the Pennsylvania Dutch country, right?
Oh man, wouldn't that just be amazing? Yeah, and go visit all the Amish and Mennonite communities. They do, some of them do tours and stuff where you can come in and buy a bunch of their breads and foods and stuff like that. That would be amazing. In fact, when my father-in-law was alive, that we do have some Amish in Kansas City, believe it or not. Not a lot, but we do have some Amish. And he would take me out and we would go get in his little convertible. He had this little old man sports car, and he would take me and we would go out into the country and go visit all the Amish people and all the Amish stands. And we would bring home like breads and jams and just baskets full of fruit and potatoes, and they had the best stuff.
Yeah, we don't have that in Austin.
No, you don't, do you? Yeah.
When I lived in Alabama and Tennessee, we had Amish communities.
Yeah.
We could go to the farmers markets and their little thing that they would have, their little markets and little barns and stuff, but they don't have that here, which sucks because I love it.
It's definitely unique. I recommend doing it at least once if you can.
So for the people who want to see what you're up to or what you have going on, where is the best place for them to go check you out, or where are you hanging out at?
It would probably be the best place is my website, www.theprofitablepsychic.com. I actually have a free course. So if you are someone that's been interested in, or if you're a tarot reader or you're a psychic reader, you do kind of do that on the side, but you really want to help people and you want to do it professionally, I actually have a course. It's called Discover Your Soul's Calling Through Spiritual Life Coaching. It's right on the very front page, one of the very first courses that you'll see, and it's completely free. And inside there's a little PDF booklet that talks about like 11 signs that you're not living your divine life purpose. Like what are the signs and symptoms of that you're not living your purpose? Then it has an amazing quiz that is like nothing else out there right now. And it actually tells you a little bit more about your soul's purpose. Like you can either be a healer, you could be a warrior, you can be a shaman, or you can be a mystic, or you can be kind of like this mixture of all four of those. And it really helps you figure out like, okay, what are your spiritual strengths? What are some modalities that you can use? Like, for example, the healers are really gifted in Reiki and energy healing. Warriors are really, really gifted in energetic healing, like through the body and movements. And then shamans are excellent at like removing past life trauma or doing even healing through like, how would you even describe it? Like healing through past life regression, that sort of thing. And then mystics are like the tarot readers, the astrologers, those kind of people. So I highly recommend doing that. You take that quiz, and then there's actually a 4-part series that will go over all of those in depth. Like I think they're like maybe an hour long each. So it will talk to you about like what your strengths are, what your blocks are around that, what's kind of the karma and dharma of being that type of person. And then at the very end, you actually have a free introductory course on how to get started as a professional spiritual life coach.
I remember I took it and it was like really in depth. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that about myself.
Yeah, it will teach you a lot about yourself, especially if you're like, I'm not sure what I'm magical and I'm spiritual and metaphysical, but I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be doing.
Correct.
So you take
Guide
that quiz and it will tell you, okay, these are some paths that are open to you, that this would be a good place to start.
Correct. Where you can be successful in that path. Because a lot of people are confused about which way they need to go and what their gifts are and how to embrace those gifts and how to make it successful. So I took it. I highly recommend it. It was really enlightening, take you down this path and, it'll really inform you of what your gifts are for sure.
Yeah.
Love it. So this is kind of an off the topic kind of question. This is my last question. So we talked about books, right? But what show or podcast or book or song or artist or tarot card reader or tarot deck or whatever that you are really digging right
so
now?
This is going to be kind of like not the answer that you expect, but there's a lady named Tess Whitehurst, and she just released a book on something like Claim Your Unicorn Magic or Step Into Your Unicorn Magic or something like that. Everybody that knows me knows I'm obsessed with unicorns. So I'm really, really into her right now. She also did the Flower Oracle card deck. Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah, it's gorgeous. So I'm really into her right now. But I would say there's just so many different, people that I'm really into too.
Yeah. There's so many creative witches out there and magical people. It's hard to pick a favorite.
It is. But I would say she's my favorite right now. But ask me again next week and I'll probably have a different answer.
We'll add some more. So thank you for hanging out with us. Christina's going to be part of the Witches Gathering virtual event November 6th through the 8th. All of the links and all of the descriptions or her social media links are going to be in the comment section. Click on those, buy your VIP tickets because your VIP tickets get you the exclusive experience and you get that loot box I talked about earlier. Those are very limited, so you want to jump on those before those boxes are gone.
I'm looking forward to the seance.
Oh my God, I know the seances with Bloody Mary.
I can't wait to get spooky. It's going to be so much fun.
Famous New Orleans voodoo priestess. So I'm excited about that and who she brings in, right?
Mm-hmm.
She may bring in one of your ancestors, Christina.
Maybe. Who knows?
Germany. Who knows? So join us November 6th through the 8th. The ticket link is going to be in the comments. All of Christina's social links are going to be in there. So come over there, take that quiz. Follow her, send her a friend request. She just can talk all day about magic for sure. So join us in the Witches Gathering virtual event November 6th through the 8th, where you get vendors, speakers, workshops, prizes, tickets, raffles.
Live DJ is going to be cool too.
DJ is going to be cool. Yeah, he's already set up. He's ready to go.
That's so cool.
So this is a virtual party
and
not just sitting here, snoozing off to like, oh my God, it's the phone speaker, whatever thing. So it's a virtual event. You want to get on this. You're not going to want to miss this one for sure. So thank you, Christina, for hanging out with us. And
thank you for having me.
You're also so glad to have you. And we'll see you November 6th through the 8th through the Witches Gathering virtual event.
See you there.
Wish on, everyone.